This is a download from BFM 89.9, the business station.
Good afternoon, this is Tech Talk and my name is Jeff Sandhu. Here with me today is Nick Taylor, ASEAN's Technology Lead for Accenture, and we are going through the 6 trends in Accenture's Technology Vision for 2014. So Nick, so how do you derive it? I've seen the whole study and it was quite comprehensive and detailed.
Sure, so thank you for having me on. I guess the Tech Vision we've been doing for about 8 years now, and I think this is the best one we've done so far because we approached it in quite a different way. So one of the techniques we'll talk about in a while is crowdsourcing. So we crowdsourced the Tech Vision from our 300,000 employees spread across 120 locations, working for thousands of different clients. And basically, we used a new product on the market, MindJet Spigot Engage, and it's an innovation platform where you can ask people to contribute their ideas. And so we collected about 3,500 ideas from our people. We consolidated them and engaged about 850 people to provide us insights on what our clients are doing. And it's not the Gartner hype cycle sort of view of the world. It's more what's happening today in our clients and what our clients are struggling with and what their challenges are and how they're changing the way that they use technology in their businesses.
So what's the underlying theme for this year's study?
So the underlying theme is we're seeing every business is a digital business, but we're seeing a shift in our clients from being disrupted to disruptors. So they are using the techniques of the big ones like Facebook and Google and Amazon, and they're starting to use those techniques inside their own companies, inside Fortune 500 companies, to disrupt their own industries.
What kind of techniques are you talking about here?
So things like, I like to use 3 examples, one sort of from the past, one from the present, and one from the future, that sort of shows you how disruption works in the industry. So a famous example is Kodak. Kodak obviously disrupted by digital cameras and digital media. In 1976, Steve Sassoon presented the first digital camera. Now, in 1996, 20 years later, Kodak was still not fully engaged in the digital camera market. They were still riding the wave of their very successful products, film and slides, etc., etc. So what we saw was the digital media coming through, not being picked up by a company as successful as Kodak was. By 2012, they were bankrupt. They were bankrupt with about 14,000 people, having a market cap of about 28 billion in 1996, going to bankruptcy in 2012. Conversely, a digital disruptor that comes along like Instagram is valued at $1 billion at that point in time when Kodak went bankrupt, and it had 13 employees. Right? And also the interesting thing is around the technology that shifted as well. So when Steve Sassoon presented that digital camera back in 1976, it was about 4 pounds, so about 2 kilos in weight. It had a resolution of about 0.01 megapixels, and I think it cost $10,000 if you wanted to buy one. Right? So, and you fast forward to today, to 2014, you can get a camera phone. So your camera that's mounted in your phone is about upwards of 20 million pixels. It's also weight is in grams, so it's about 0.03 of a pound. And when you look at it, it's less than $10. And when you look at that technology and the way that it's shifted and advanced, so everybody has now a camera with them, whereas they used to carry. And so that's the sort of dematerialization we're seeing in the industry, where things that are large, things that are cumbersome, things that we carry are becoming part of our digital environment. And I guess the present example that I like to give about digital disruption and what companies are doing today is a Fortune 500 company like Tesco. So Tesco, we're seeing them do some amazing stuff in the past around customer loyalty, around new types of products in their stores, about internet sales. But we're starting to see them experiment in some new ways in terms of disrupting their own portfolio of business. For example, they're selling their own tablets. So my father, who's in his mid-60s, who is not a technologist by heart, he went and he went and did his weekly shopping and picked up a tablet. Picked up a tablet from Tesco's branded. Tesco support team there. Starts to use the tablet. When he has some issues, as he's going back to the store, he's starting to kind of query and question. Also, all the Tesco's applications are on there. It's easy to use. So, again, Tesco's are kind of disrupting their own business and disrupting other businesses by selling new products, selling different types of products in their stores, and even at the gas pump. Right? They've now got facial recognition at their gas pumps in about 450 locations in the UK, which are digitally recognising their demographics of their customers. And you can start to use things like targeted marketing on those customers based on the fact of their age or their gender or the frequency of how often they come in, etc., etc. So again, we're starting to see some new waves of disruption using technology. And I guess the future example of disruption that hasn't quite happened yet is autonomous vehicles. So we're seeing, a lot of press and read the Economist, and it talks about sort of the inroads that are being made in autonomous vehicles and the hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of miles are being put on the road. You'd say that insurance companies would be disrupted. You'd say that logistics and freight companies would be disrupted. But you also look at things like car parks. So why is there a need for car parks when the cars can drive themselves home? Or school buses, or even safety equipment. So a large percentage of the weight of a vehicle is made up of safety equipment. If the cars are safer because they're automatically looking out for danger and the speed is controlled and the proximity of other cars is controlled, you don't need safety equipment. As much safety equipment. You can also look at things like infotainment. So what happens as you're driving along? You want to work, or you want to play, or you want to exercise. Who knows what industries will be disrupted because you've got one technology, which is the autonomous vehicle.
What do companies need? Well, it sounds like all of these are just companies being forward thinking. What do companies actually need in order for them to be a forward thinking company?
They need to ask hard questions. Right? So often I go into my clients, into companies that I'm dealing with, and I ask them, what is the hardest question you have? And it might be, who's going to come along and be our competition tomorrow? The company that doesn't even exist yet. How do we get more customers? How do we expand globally? Those are the hard questions that I would be suggesting. And as a technologist, you would think I would just come up with a technology answer. A lot of the discussions I have with my clients are really around business outcomes that want to be driven and how technology can support it. And I guess that's something we're seeing in the industry at the moment, is a shift away from just IT as a function within a blue chip company, and being much more focused around the business. We're seeing business users bringing their own devices into work. They're much less scared of technology. Right? People are bringing their own applications, bringing their own devices, developing their own applications on their devices. They're wearing wearable technologies for health, for safety. So we're seeing a shift to the businesses. Business customers driving a lot of the technology change. And so the conversations I'm having with a lot of our clients are around how do we capture what the business needs to do with technology and drive that faster with some very, very unpredictable expectations of our customers. So, for example, people want it always on. They always want their access to the applications. They don't see a need to have one device that's provided by the company. They want to bring their own. They want to have access to their own app stores, maybe inside their own companies, to be able to go and develop apps on the fly, to get data and ask questions in a business way and not have to rely on technology querying to be able to get the answers. So we're seeing a shift, and our clients are seeing a shift, that the business is becoming much more demanding around technology, and the shift is to enable those business users, those end users, to be much more enabled.
I'm speaking to Nick Taylor, ASEAN's Technology Lead for Accenture, and when we come back in just a moment, we'll discuss the 6 trends found in the Technology Vision for 2014. This is Tech Talk on BFM 89.9. I'm here with Nick Taylor, the ASEAN's Technology Lead for Accenture, and early on we spoke about the Technology Vision for 2014. So you've identified 6 trends in Tech Vision 2014. So break it down for us. What are these 6?
So let me go through them quickly, and I can give you some examples. So the first one is around sort of digital physical blur. And when we look at that, is the dematerialization of stuff, of stuff into the digital world.
Of everything, in a way.
Yeah. So, for example, like Internet of Things, video analytics, wearable technologies, connected devices, 3D printing. There's a bunch of stuff that's taking the physical world, robotics and drones, taking the physical world and either augmenting it or making it or taking it away and putting it into the digital world, or helping us understand it better. So, I'd like to use examples like I'm wearing a jawbone at the moment. Now, before I wore this, I didn't know how much exercise I didn't do. Right? I didn't realize how sedentary my life was. So I read Tim Roth's book, Eat, Move, Sleep, and it suggests that you move about 10,000 steps a day. And I was thinking I was doing exercise three times a week, and I was thinking I was pretty fit and well. But when I was looking at some of the days in the office where I was doing meeting after meeting, I was burning less than 500 calories, walking less than 1,000 steps. I mean, you are very sedentary. So you're doing a tenth of what you should be doing on a daily basis. So again, you're starting to view the physical world in a different way. You're starting to be able to have access to data, even sleeping. So now it monitors light sleep and deep sleep. And so you can understand the next day if you feel a bit grumpy because you
would know why.
Yeah, you know why. And also, it's got cool stuff like now we can set a range. So if you want to wake up between 6:30 and 7 in the morning, you set that range, and what it will do is it will interpret whether you're in deep sleep or light sleep, and it will wake you up in light sleep, so you're not so freaked out, you're not so kind of disoriented when you wake up, and you feel a lot better for it.
Yeah.
So wearable devices, and they suggest that we'll have many more wearable devices monitoring. There's a lot of things in health that help us monitor diabetes. So contact lenses that will assess glucose levels to allow you to alert you when your glucose levels are out. We're starting to see things like robotics. So Baxter, which is a robot which is about a fifth of the price of a big industrial robot. And basically you don't have to have very complicated technology or programming to program it. You can move it around. So you move the robot around to mimic what you want it to do. So if it's repetitive action, and then it interprets by touch and feel to maximize either the speed or the distance that it covers. And we're talking about $22,000 for a robot, and it operates at about $4 an hour. So you can imagine where you've got factories or even healthcare where you're lifting patients and you're moving heavy objects around in the workplace. You can actually start to use a robot which is almost self-aware, self-thinking, and very highly it's easy to use as a user, because you can move it and it interprets those movements as programming language. We're also seeing things like analytics, video analytics. So we're starting to see video used for queuing, for city safety. So, for example, on the Caribbean cruise line, Royal Caribbean, they're starting to use video analytics to look at queues for the different restaurants that it has around the ships. So it's starting to tell people where the queues are long, how long the wait times are, and so people can choose and self-select where they go. 3D printing is another one that's fantastic in terms of, it's taking our supply chain and it's moving it closer to where we need things. So the army is starting to experiment around having 3D printers to print devices where they're needed on site. In fact, I was talking to one of my good friends in London the other day, and he said, I've got time to chat, I'm waiting for my tooth to be printed. And I was saying, well, what do you mean? He said, well, my crown is being replaced, and they're 3D printing it in the office. So they're basically taking the form of the tooth, they're printing it in 3D. It's taking about 30 minutes to print, and then they install it automatically, that day as I'm in the appointment, rather than me having to wait and come back and having it fitted.
The ability to just do a customized one-off prints.
It's amazing. And in architecture, in makers, the maker market is starting to experiment more with 3D printing, and also the materials are getting much more varied. So you're starting to see metals and plastics and rubbers being printed. You're starting to have different colors being printed. I think the latest I heard was there's 6 different colors and 3 different configurations of material that you can use. So it's quite a combination. You're starting to print components inside. So gears and wheels are starting being printed inside the 3D object, so they're automatically working as it comes out of the print run. I guess the last thing is around augmented reality. So we're starting to see a shift in terms of WordLens is an application I've been following for a while, and I've seen it evolve over time. And I love this application because you basically use your phone, and eventually you use your Google glasses to look at a menu or to look at a sign, and you can see it. So it takes the text from that real world, it takes it away, and it reinterprets the language. So it does the language translation, and it puts it back into the reality you're observing. So back on the menu or back on the road sign, and you're starting to see a bigger trust in translation services and a look and feel. IKEA is doing a similar thing in terms of furniture. Many people, I think 15% of people buy the wrong size furniture for their house. So again, augmented reality, where you kind of take measurements of your house, you start to look at where things can be placed. It starts to calculate what their sizes are and whether the sofa will fit, whether the cupboard is too high, etc. So I'm sorry, I spent a long time on physical digital blur because there's a lot of stuff going on in that space. The second one is around moving from workforce to crowdsourcing. So one of the things that my clients are constantly asking for, the companies that I work with are constantly asking for, is innovation. They are mad for innovation at the moment and generating new ideas, new disruptive ideas within their own organization, new ideas for their customers. And so we're starting to see leveraging of the crowd. So whether that's, social networks, so outside of your company, inside your company, and all your employees, alumni, so ex-employees, your partners, it might be educational institutes, so your access to many, many more people and many more minds. And we're moving away from this linear innovation within the company where, one incremental, an idea gets put together in a research and development lab, and it goes through a series of checks to have all the innovation taken out of it to end up being an incremental innovation rather than a very wild and wacky and risky innovation. And so we're starting to see a lot of sourcing from the crowds, and we're starting to see, you've heard of Kickstarter, obviously 5 years in the making, nearly $1 billion of pledges, and 50,000, I think, ideas have come through. The largest company in the world is now a crowdsourcer. It's called Zebagi. I think I'm pronouncing that right. It's based in China. It's got about 1.9 million jobs being posted. And it's starting to generate quite a lot of revenue. It's got about 400 million of revenue going through it. And you're starting to see communities getting together. So Local Motors, I don't know if you've heard of Local Motors, car enthusiasts getting together to build cars. Right? And once they've built cars, now BMW is using a partnership with Local Motors to actually kind of look at sourcing new ideas for cars and what people are interested in, and the designs and the specs they want on the cars. They're starting. So those blue chip companies are starting to pull in a lot of the external crowd. The example I like the most is Lego. Lego has got this thing called QSO. And QSO is where you submit a design. So you make your own design in Lego, and you submit it onto a website. And then people look at the design and either vote for it or not. And if it gets 10,000 votes, it gets made into production. So your Lego design. So I think I saw one which was the Back to the Future Jules Verne train. It's been crafted up. I think it had 9,000 votes the last time I looked at it. And that when it gets to 10,000 votes, gets manufactured, and the person that's posted it gets 1% of the net sales from the product. So you're starting to see, a drive, an incentive for people to want to contribute to a company's success. So I like those examples. There's other examples around crowdsourcing your assets. So using your home as a hotel room, or using your car as a taxi service, etc., etc. So there's a lot more moving from that sort of just looking in isolation at your workforce and moving to a crowdsourcing, understanding who's out there that contribute to your business. The next one is around data supply chain. So putting the information into circulation, which is basically treating data as an asset, but no longer is it just the buzzword, treat your data as an asset, putting it into action, treating data like it's part of your supply chain, part of your valuable assets moving through your organization. And as it moves through your organization, it's not kept in silos where it's never exploited. So it moves through, people can understand its currency. So whether it's value, if it's old, if it's new, if it's hot, if it's cold. So starting to see and exploit data as it moves through the supply chain, bolting data together, giving your end users the ability to interrogate that data at a moment's notice scientists to query it in a way which is not just a technology query. It's a real life, almost like a questionable query that comes back with the answer, will give you insights that you didn't know about before. And so, we're starting to see companies like Walgreens opening up their APIs. So they're starting to open up the API links for their 8,000 stores they've got across the US, for their pharmacies, so that companies that do refreshing of drugs can automatically understand the user's requirement in terms of what they've ordered, and then refill their orders very quickly. Ford is starting to experiment with their energy line of hybrid cars. So they've got it's a pretty smart thing, right? So 25 gigabytes of data are coming back to a central hub from all the cars that are out there about battery life and performance and how the car's being used and how it's performing. And then that data is accessible by the owners to understand their own car. So no longer are you going direct to the car. Ford is capturing all that information and then being able to kind of synthesize it, understand what's going on at real time. And then the owner is able to get access to data on how their own car is performing. And again, Domino's Pizza is another example. So operated on a franchise model. 5 years ago, I think it was pretty much zero of their sales were done through the online channel. I think 40% is done today through the online channel. Obviously, with franchise, you don't know what your franchisees are doing. So understanding that data all the way through from ordering all the materials for the product to actually delivery and satisfaction of the product. So seeing that end-to-end data chain and being able to interrogate it to understand what your customer sentiments and how your franchisee is performing, to allow you to kind of make sure that quality standards are kept up. And then the next one is around harnessing hyperscale. So it's all about the hardware. We're seeing a lot of our business customers taking back command of the data centers, so the hardware that they're using. So obviously, with lots of data traveling through your organization, lots of connected devices producing more data, our clients are getting much more energetic about pulling the data, understanding the data, and holding the data and processing the data themselves. We're seeing companies like GE bolting mini data centers to gas turbines to improve efficiencies. And 1% efficiency on a gas turbine can equate to about $6 billion of improvement, $6 billion of improvement. And we're starting to see in memory processing, so we've the likes of SAP HANA and Oracle Exalytics. So we're starting to see processing engines and that hardware that's on site really driving interrogation of the massive amounts of data. And companies are not afraid now to own their own hardware and manage their own hardware. And in fact, the open compute standards that we've got from Facebook, so people are starting to build their own servers that fit in their data centers. And we're seeing a lot more customers moving away from the traditional hardware sellers to actually manufacturing their own hardware. I guess the next two I'll cover very, very quickly, because I know I'm getting very engaged and excited about each one of these. But the business of apps. So we're moving from enterprise applications to very kind of bite-sized applications. So we're seeing about half of our clients experimenting with their own app stores. So starting to give their end users the ability to build, to get hold of applications with smaller amounts of functionality that enable them to do smaller amounts of work in packets remotely. So using the mobile devices, using analytics, being able to kind of get those applications to them. And it might be at the front end for customer service, it might be for manufacturing in terms of efficiencies, it might be for farming in terms of getting more crop yields. But we're starting to see applications spreading out into the hands of the users, and I guess that has a consequence in terms of people becoming unafraid to program. So we're starting to see a lot more of our alliance partners, so the technology providers we work with, actually providing platforms that business users can build their own applications on to satisfy their own business requirements. So we're starting to see that shift in terms of how businesses are treating their applications. And I guess the last one is about architectural resiliency. So that often sort of says security, but it's not really about security anymore. I think the expectations of our customers are much more that everything's always on. So everything is always available, no matter where you are in the world, no matter what device you use, and it's always available, always on. And so we're seeing a lot of our clients dealing with things like multiple releases in a day. So the agile development, agile releasing, doing the Facebooks are doing 50 releases a day. I don't think our blue chip companies are doing that many. But again, a release a week is not unheard of, where it used to be a release a year. So again, there's an expectation that the added functionality will come through more quickly, that the aggressive testing, so we're starting to see automated testing, things like Chaos Monkey that's been developed by Amazon, being used to kind of find the faults, and also the crowdsourcing being driven to find faults as well, so asking for people to try and break your application so that you can start to find faults in it, and rewarding the people that find those bugs. So again, there's one other thing that's interesting in this architectural resilience. It's called catastrophic failure. Catastrophic success, where you're so successful that hundreds or not thousands of people will be demanding your service and product, and you being able to architect your back end to be able to satisfy that demand. And we've seen some examples like Flappy Bird, for example, where it's so successful that it almost kills the product. Right? So again, we're starting to see our clients architecting resilience, and it's not just about security anymore. It's about maintaining success as you grow, as you rapidly expand.
I've been speaking to Nick Taylor, ASEAN's Technology Lead for Accenture, and next week we'll talk about how to determine which of these 6 trends applies to your business. This is Tech Talk on BFM 89.9.
Thank you for listening to this podcast. To find more great interviews, go to bfm.my or find us on iTunes. BFM 89.9. The